to another broadcast from swug.org. Your information technology answers are here.
Hi everyone, I'm Steve Weinkoop and welcome to another edition of Swug TV. And today we have Laura Rose back on the program talking about all sorts of stuff that you run into in your daily life at work. Welcome back to the show, Laura. Great to have you back on the show.
Hey, Steve.
One of the things that you and I have been talking quite a bit about is this concept of there's sort of the professional work life where you have all the rules of doing your job, but then there are these sort of soft rules, these etiquette things. What do you see when you're working with people out there and they're asking you questions? You know, what kind of things do people run into?
Well, we were talking about this a little bit earlier. One of the things that we mentioned were, well, hey, when I go out to lunch or to a meal, who picks up the check? Some other ones are, hey, how do I leave the office before my boss leaves the office? I feel uncomfortable doing that. It's some things that we feel uncomfortable about. So let's talk about the thing you were talking about, meals. Who picks up the check for meals?
Right. That's kind of a dicey situation. You can get into a real, well, just tell me, how do you suggest people deal with that? I know I have my own thoughts, but...
Well, there are like different situations, for instance, and some of them are easy to answer. If I'm taking a client out to a dinner or lunch, typically you pick up the tab.
Right.
If you're going with coworkers, typically it's split, right?
Right.
And if you're going out with a manager, typically the manager will pick up the tab.
True. Yeah, and I always tell people if somebody else is picking up the tab, you always order after they order, and you order something that costs less than what they ordered.
What a great idea. That's great.
Because then you know you're not ordering lobster tail and they're ordering a tuna fish sandwich. You know?
That's right.
So yeah, and I will say too, there are some companies actually have etiquette rules on who can pick up the tab. So there are some places where if you're going out, even if you're going out with a client or a prospective client, you can't pick up the tab for them because they've got gifting rules and things like that going on that you can't mess with.
Exactly. And the other thing too is if you're unsure of any of these rules, speak to your manager about them.
Yep.
Another one is, what if I'm doing traveling for the company? What are the per diems? What are the expense rules for those things? If you're doing any traveling, make sure you understand those rules before you pack your bag.
Right. And then underspend the rules.
Exactly.
I will just say, from an owner standpoint, you know, it's not about being cheap, but it's about being smart. You know,
exactly.
If you can go have a bagel for breakfast and you're a small breakfast person anyway, this isn't the time to necessarily experiment with $30 breakfasts. So yeah, it's a tough place to be.
And if you're a manager, take on the responsibility of making sure your team understands those rules ahead of time.
Right. A lot of people think, you know, I get to go travel and I'm traveling on the company's dime, so woohoo, whip out the credit card and spend away. And that puts everybody in a bad spot. You're in a spot of having to explain why you thought that was okay, and the company is in a bad spot of spending a lot more money than they really should be.
Anticipated, right?
Yeah.
So it's really clear if you're the manager or if you're the employee, have the expectations known up front.
Yes, very much so.
It's going to be a very difficult conversation when you come back and you've given, you know, you got drunk one night, you gave somebody 50% tip, and now you have to discuss that with your manager. So.
Right. You went to the most expensive steak joint in town with 15 other people, and you picked up the tab. And
somebody's going to have to pay that bill.
That's right. And one of the things that I always try to help people understand too is the travel expenses are one of those things that are the most controllable expenses. You know, your payroll and rent and all those things just kind of happen. And, you know, they're not going to move very much. But when you're traveling and you could pick a cheaper flight that gets you to the same place in the same amount of time, or, you know, if you could pick a slightly less expensive place to eat or eat conference food instead of eating out in the restaurant, you know, you can make huge differences in the bill associated with the travel.
Well, my manager, I remember when I was working in the corporate environment, my manager would always express it as spend the company's money like it was yours.
Yes, yes, yep. Unless you're accustomed to spending lots of money, in which case spend it like it was mine. So the other option you were talking about, or the item we were talking about, was leaving work before your boss. What do you see in that situation?
Well, I think it's when you're working with a boss that's really passionate about his work, and you see them working 24/7, and then the question is, well, does my boss expect me to work 24/7 too? It's 9 p.m. at night, and he's still at his office. Can I leave before my boss leaves? Well, the same concept goes here. Just identify expectations up front. You may not realize that, yeah, he's working 9 p.m. at night because he left between 3 to 5 to go to his kid's dance recital or something. So you don't know what he did in between. So just get your expectations up front and say, hey, what are the regular work hours? Or even express, hey, I need to handle some child care issues between these hours. Is it okay if I leave the office from 3 to 5 and come back at 7 to finish up? Things like that.
Right, right. And today there are so many other options as well. If you want to take stuff home or whatever. I think if you went to your boss and said, look, I really need to be at home because of my kids, my family, my other obligations, but I guarantee you I'm going to get my stuff done, and you actually deliver on that, then I think it gives you a lot more flexibility than somebody who's going, you know what, you're leaving and it's only X o'clock and stuff isn't getting done. So, if you can cover the everything's getting done piece of it, there's a lot more flexibility on the other side.
And then I also do want to add one more piece about that is if you can commit to a block of time where he can call you to ask questions.
Yeah.
Say, but I'll be back online from 7 to 9 so that you can call me with any questions. That also helps your case.
Very true, very true. And there's some training, I think, for bosses too. There's some teaching, showing them that you'll actually get it done and kind of earning the trust. And I think you've got to hold up your side of the bargain first, and then show them, see, it can work, and I don't need to be here till midnight every day and be back at 3 o'clock in the morning. Although bosses would love that, just for the record. I mean, that's...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that goes into one of these other questions I received that we can maybe talk about a little later, is that, the boss is going to keep on giving you more and more until you say stop. They don't know how much you can handle. So
right.
you've got to be responsible for, say, for instance, what you put on your plate.
Yep, very true. Let's definitely cover that in the next show. We're running a little bit short on time, but that's a very, very important topic. So, well, thanks a lot for being on the show today. Really appreciate it, and I really look forward to the next show. And we'll